we could look at the chat and see if there's some questions. We'll take those. Oh yeah, so there's one here from Raul. I'd like to know what type of training to do from Monday to Saturday based on what is in the cyclozone.
That's it. I mean, that's generally Raul. It's good to. Hola, Raul. ¿Qué tal, amigo? ¿Está bien? Okay. Ahora, no habla en español más, no más. Ahora en inglés. We have this col value. So what you can do, for example, you're starting the week, you're probably going to be looking at hitting col values of around about 70, 75, 76%. And once you do a successful class at 76%, then maybe try one a little bit better, a little bit, more percentage col until you start to feel that's too much of your FTP. And once you reach a level that is difficult for you to achieve, then it's time then to probably take a step down to one of the lower classes or take a free ride and try and make sure you hit that free ride for a 40, 45 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, but stay in your blue and your green zones. So put your own tunes on and use that recovery ride to get you back. And then the next day you can come back super strong. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Raul. Kathy had a question. Can you say again about loss of speed with age and how to maintain fitness?
Yeah, the loss of speed, it's something that we all suffer from as we get older. If we become more sedimentary and the mobility we lose as we get older physically as our bodies degrade, means that the big area that power is fundamental to our performance. I mean, to the point of fact now, even if we look at something that we cyclists, we are very pre-concerned with, is watts per kilo, okay? It's the amount of power your body produces per kilo of body weight. So what we're trying to do is keep that wattage, that per kilo of body weight, up around the 2.5 mark is great. Anything higher than that's fantastic. But if you can keep your average power mark at around that 2 watts per kilo, 2.5 watts per kilo, that's brilliant. Now the problem is, as we get older, that power starts to decrease, but it doesn't decrease because we become weak. When I did my seminars all over the world, I used to start my seminars when we started talking about power and age. And I used to say, has anybody ever tried to wrestle their grandfather? Was their grandfather a weak old man? No, most grandfathers are super strong. They'll pin you down at 18, 19 and you won't be able to get away from them. If they get you in a headlock, you can't get away. They're not, but if you ask them to chase you around the park, for example, they're not going to be able to do it. Exactly. They're not going to do it. And that's because it's the speed element, the agility, the mobility element that's missing. And this is something I've tried to address with Cyclozone, because the classes, and I've had a lot of people say, oh, your classes, a lot of them are 85 to 90 RPM. And I'm saying, so that's discomfort. That's not comfortable for you to do. And the reason is because you've already started that journey to slowing down. And your training is not actually starting to reverse that journey. We need to start to pedal that bike at what we call in the cycling world at our optimal pace. Now, when you're riding a bike with power, what we as cyclists understand is something called metabolic cost. Now, I've already spoken to you about strength endurance training, which is the slow pace with the heavy gear. And I've talked to you about the high pace stuff on the lower gear, and the fact that you can create red zone power, one of those two extremes. Now, the problem is, if I went for a long time on red zone, for example, on a high resistance and low pace, I will fail because my legs will create too much lactic acid and I won't be able to get rid of the lactic acid. And that is what's called metabolic cost. The metabolic cost to me riding on a heavy gear and riding slowly is the fact my muscles will produce excess lactic acid. On the other end of the spectrum, if I'm riding very quickly on a lower resistance but higher RPM, my metabolic cost is much more aerobic based. So in other words, I'm going to start to fail because my body can't deliver enough oxygen to my legs to keep me going at that pace. So what we tend to find is cyclists always settle, all professional cyclists, they settle at between 85 and 95 RPM all of the time, because that is the area in which our bodies are optimally producing the most amount of functional power for the minimal metabolic cost. In other words, you burn more calories, you burn more power, you create more power for less metabolic cost, which means you can go for longer, harder at that cadence. Hence the reason a lot of the classes with Cyclozone do have good areas of 85 to 90 RPM work, because we're trying to emulate what millions of cyclists already understand, which is that riding at that pace is very, very good for the body and very good for our engine. So it's good for producing power. So speed element, when we start to work our legs faster, and it doesn't mean working at full speed, it's about just pedaling slightly quicker and holding it there for a longer period of time. Now, for some, it's quite uncomfortable to do to begin with, but actually, as you do it more, it actually becomes your preferred cadence. I mean, I think we've got a member actually on the Cyclozone members group, and I think he's a member of the Keiser M3I users group as well, Tony Robinson. And Tony is a cyclist from outdoors, but didn't really understand the cadence side of things. And when he first started with Cyclozone, really was finding it tough to be at that 85 to 90 RPM, but actually stuck with it. And now he finds it's his go-to pace for creating power when he's on the road. If he's climbing a little hill or he's climbing a mountain, whatever he's doing, he's trying to hit those 85 to 90 RPM rides. And it's all through what his body has learned from training like that. So Kathy, just to let you know that is exactly what you need to do. Not just ride fast, but ride fast with intensity. Create your power at that 85 to 90, 95 RPM kind of pace. Even on your free rides, it'll serve you really well. Really well.
And even when, and Kathy will tell you, even when she does the rides with me, we're varying those cadences. So some weeks we'll go 80 to 90. We might go a bit lower sometimes, but it's varying it all the time. But we're keeping that intensity up, or we're keeping those cadences up as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just to add, Kathy added just another question to that. My legs usually fail before my heart-lung capacity struggles. Is that lactic acid?
What fails first? Yeah, legs. Yeah.
Yeah, just say my legs usually fail before.
That's lactic acid. That's just muscle endurance, and you know that's something you can build up over time. The good thing you've got is that. And I would say to somebody, you're in a preferred position to have that rather than other people whose hearts fail before the muscles do. It goes back to exactly what I was saying about people that cannot do the fitness test. It's not that their muscles are tired. It's because this failed. This says, because the heart will respond to whatever you need to do. Think about your fight and flight. So you're walking along millions of years ago and a lion jumped out the bush. Well, your heart, your body, your brain releases those chemicals and it says run. It says you've got to either run or you've got to fight, whichever one you've got to do. But what happens is when that release of chemicals happen, your heart rate speeds up. Well, if these fail, if your muscles fail and it can't perform, well, you're not going to get away, are you? Yeah. It's great to have a strong one of these. That's what you need, because once this is working, what you can do is flipping out. I got away this time, but what I now need to do is train these muscles to be able to get away and be more efficient. So once you get these more efficient, guess what? You've got this great engine. These have got stronger. These have got faster, and all of a sudden, everything falls into place.
We're talking about balance again. And that's what we're talking about. I mean, whatever exercise you undertake on a bike, whether it be the strength endurance, the 60, 65 work, the 85, 90 work, or the sprint endurance intervals, that we undertake when we put people through that last 10 minutes of class where we try to take you to the limit. The heart is getting a fantastic workout no matter what. And Mel said that, getting your heart rate up around that 85 to 90% of maximum is really the critical element of why we take people into those red zones. It's not really to create that much, from the legs. The legs are getting a good workout anyway. Getting your heart rate up to that 85 to 90, actually, what you're looking at is training that left ventricle. It's the stroke volume. It's the ability of your body to push more blood around the body with every single pulse of that heart. So every time it pulses, more blood goes round, more oxygen has entered it, it's oxygenated blood, and therefore more oxygenated blood ends up at your legs. And that's exactly what the road you're on, Kathy. You're getting to the point now where it seems like your aerobic system is pretty good. What you need to do now is get that oxygen to the legs to keep those legs going. And that's...
And this is why I feel women really, really take to indoor cycling, because once that all falls into place, they get that balance of, this is working really well.
Yeah.
They're really confident. The body then falls into line with their aesthetics and everything else. the upright walking and everything else, and then all of a sudden that all falls together, and I'm just going to keep doing that because it works for me, balanced with a good resistance training regime as well. You've got the whole package.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's the point with the reason I set up Cyclozone, to be totally honest with you, was exactly, I come from a pure racing bred cycling background. I'm happier on Zwift than I am anywhere else, or out on the road than anywhere else, on my bike with my backside on fire, flying along, doing what I do best, which is competing against other cyclists and pushing myself to the limit. But that's not my passion anymore. My passion is to take what my body has actually benefited from all those years and giving them to these millions of cyclists that are doing all of these platforms that don't understand exactly what they're doing and how much more beneficial it could be to their body just by making a few simple changes and educating the brain a little bit about what they're doing and understanding that, not all platforms are created equal. Some of them are out there, are just giving you what you think you want. I will stand and I will stand there and say, I am not going to appeal to everybody out there because not everybody wants to get on a bike and do what I'm asking them to do. And I understand that, but I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people out there who are just looking for that extra. They're thinking there must be something more to this. There's more to this. And I think there's a lot of people we've seen both on the M3R users group over lockdown and also the Cyclozone guys that have seen this journey. They've joined thinking this is just an indoor cycle program, but they've been drawn in by the power side of it and actually started to realize that actually, yes, by doing the correct cadence and the correct intensity for the correct amount of time, and then recovering at the correct cadence at the correct intensity for the correct amount of time, is really great for the human body. Listen to the instructors that know. And then because we put it to great music, you can still have a great time doing it. We got big graphics on screen and, but what you've got to realize in every single one of our classes, every single interval is created understanding energy systems, understanding how to create power, and understanding how we can create a better human being out of the people who are riding with us. And that's what I want to achieve. Always remembering that we're not training cyclists to be better cyclists, although that will happen. I'm creating better human beings. That's what we're trying to create. It's about giving somebody that's simple to use, a bike in their house, a laptop or a tablet. And what we're trying to do is give them a small space, an area in their own home, or an area where they can really achieve great things on their own by just a little understanding of what they're trying to do and what we're trying to do on the bike. And that's what that is.
I love that, Darren. Yeah, let's do this training to not just be great cyclists or improve our ourselves as cyclists, but as human beings.
Yeah. That watt per kilo. So. That watt per kilo is critical when you get over the age of 50, 60. Most people produce a lot less power and put on a lot more weight. And that means you've got a smaller engine trying to shift around a bigger mass. It's like putting a mini engine in a tank. What you really want is a Ferrari engine in a Mini. That's what you want.
That's it. I don't have any other questions in the chat at the moment. If there aren't any other questions, you both have been super generous with your time already today, and I know we've gone over a bit of what was originally planned. This was certainly for me fantastic. Great to have met you, Darren, a couple of times. Then Mel today. You guys are so knowledgeable and super informative for us. It's been great. I know, Darren, that you're on the Keiser group, and it's been great getting feedback there. But I thought this was a great way to connect, get some other info from both of you.
I think the thing I'd like to finish on is, remember, folks, you've got all this data. Use your data. You've got these bikes with these readouts on. And a lot of people buy these bikes, they have this technology, they have these watches on, and they don't use the data. So if you're just rolling along on this bike and you're only working in that 50%, 40%, and you're there, start thinking about what you're actually getting out of what you've done. Because I say to anybody, if I was to say that you are worth £1 million, £2 million, would you invest? Right, okay, so if you invested in this bike, you've invested in this watch, now invest in your health. So the way you're going to invest is actually put the effort in. That's how you're investing. You're paying by putting that effort in. So if you've got all this and you can see, wow, well, my heart rate's only 105 and I should be really working at 155, 160, there's your answer. This is why you're not getting out what you're putting in. And it is a really big thing for me. You really do only get out. You only get out what you put in. If you're not putting in the effort, you're not going to get it out. And that is it. Use the platforms that you've got. Use the equipment you've got to get the best result.
And if you need to educate yourself how to use it, contact the platforms. Contact myself, Mel. Yep. Ask us. If you don't know, we're all there available. I'm sure there's a lot of people going to be watching this on recording, you know, and they like what we're saying, but they're not quite understanding, you know. Listen, just send a message in the group. We will answer. I answer messages all the time on this group. Mel,
yep.
Ask the question, you know, make sure you've got a certain area you're not sure about. Ask that question, get yourself informed, get yourself educated. Like you said, you've all got the Keiser bikes, you know, you've all got this, you know, you're probably measuring your heart rate, but you probably just don't understand exactly how it works and how you should use that for your own benefit. And yeah, I think it's a good way to finish. Great one, Mel.
Definitely.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Thank you to everyone that was able to come today. We will post it on the group anyway. If you want to have a listen again, if there was something you missed, but hopefully you got a lot out of it, and look forward to doing your classes. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Daniel, thank you so much for setting this up. Mel, as always, you're an absolute legend, and everybody who joined, thank you very much, and we'll see you again very soon.
Take care, folks. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.